There's a lot of things that aren't working out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are. I mean, listen, I know like you spending time and living in L.A., it's an amazing city.
It's amazing.
And when I ran for office, as much as I loved L.A., I actually fell in love with it more because I got to see places that I wouldn't normally see. And so it was really amazing. And people and the diversity and the dearness of so many neighborhoods and people. But what's happened to L.A. over the last decade is just tragic. And people are paying huge consequences for it. And it's sad to watch.
So if you get to the heart of it, like if you won and you became the mayor of LA, what could you do to try to turn this battleship around? Because it's a big battleship.
It's a big battleship, and people will argue that the mayor of LA doesn't have a lot of authority like other mayors. You know, I learned a lot, Joe. I worked for 3 mayors. I worked for Tom Bradley when I was in my mid-20s as a commissioner. I was the head of Department of Water and Power. I worked for Dick Reardon. He brought me back in to head up DWP during the energy crisis. The department was under a lot of financial strain. And then I worked for Jim Hahn, who brought me in to turn around LAPD, and I was the police commissioner, the head of the police commission. So I've seen really good leadership. And honestly, what we've had in the last 2 mayors is not good leadership, and we're paying a price for it. So you may not have a lot of power, but actually, I think the most powerful thing you can have that I learned as a police commissioner, if you're not worried about getting reelected or reappointed, it's really amazing what can happen. Because you can make decisions that are actually in the best interest of the people. And I believe that career politicians are always worried about getting reelected. They are scared to death of getting a real job. They've never had to sign the front of a check, only the back. So it's very difficult for them to even think about being out of office. So they just circulate. You know, they go from the city council to the state assembly to the state senate. And we end up with the same sort of look and feel of leadership, which is pretty weak. I think Dick Reardon was a good example of a guy who came in and did a lot of great stuff. I actually think Jimmy Hahn did a lot of great stuff as mayor. So I would go in there with some strong leadership. I would certainly go in there and reach across the aisle and find common ground and all of those things you need to do to move forward. But I would certainly plant some really strong goals that everybody knew we were working towards. Because, you know, I believe that you either lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I really admire people who lead. And I wouldn't mind being a little bit controversial if it's in the interest of doing what's in the best interest of the residents.
Well, that's what I enjoyed about your campaign, and that's what I was really hopeful about, is that it seemed like you were not running for mayor because you wanted to be the mayor. You were running for mayor because you're a businessman, and you realized that this was not being run like a successful business.
Right.
You knew how to run a successful business. You knew the difference. And LA is just constantly plagued by this crony political movement. The same people, same type of people shuffling in and out, and it just nothing ever changes.
Yeah. And again, to give you a little bit of background, I am so indebted to LA. It sounds a little bit corny, but you know, my paternal and maternal grandparents, they were both immigrants. My paternal grandfather was a gardener in Los Angeles. He lived in Boyle Heights. He started as a coal miner. He actually probably had one of the worst jobs you could ever have in life. When he immigrated here to a little town called Uniontown, Pennsylvania, he was the dynamiter. He was the guy that had to go in the lead.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, set the dynamite and get the hell out in time. And his brother, who immigrated with him, said, come to L.A. It's sunny. My dad was actually born in a coal mining camp outside the coal mine. But anyway, he was a gardener out here. And we actually grew up in his truck as he would go around. And they had this small little home they rented in Boyle Heights. And I think about what L.A. gave to my grandparents, to my dad, to me, my family, the opportunity to build a business. And so running for mayor, the motivation was I want to give back to the city that gave me so much. And by the way, all the problems that we've got, you can fix them with a little bit of backbone, a little bit of smarts. If you're equipped right, bring together some really smart people, You could fix everything. And to your point, what happened when I was tied at the end of the race and actually a little bit ahead? You know, Biden flies into campaign. Kamala flies into campaign. Pelosi, Bernie. And at the end of the day, when we're 10 days before Election Day, they finally convinced Obama to do a message. And so the system is it's a closed loop, right? And the idea that somebody was going to come in the 10th that's an outsider was horrifying to them. And, you know, we would laugh about it as a family. It's like, you might as well just load up Air Force One all at one time and bring everybody out.
Right.
But I loved every minute of it. And, you know, I hope at some point that system's changing. And I think people are getting more frustrated lately, and they're looking for people who are competent rather than just people who may share ideology.